Hey guys, I'm your host Skia, and I wanted to bring you a guide on expeditions. While I was making that guide, I had several opinions about the game that I wanted to share in a review. But instead of making two different videos, I decided just to bring you along. I'm going to play the first 5 episodes. I'll more than likely do them in a series. That way they're just 5 separate episodes. But I'm gonna just bring you along and discuss my feelings of the game. Just give you guys tips, tricks, pointers. But we're all gonna do that just like if anyone else were to start this game. This does include the tutorial. The tutorial is very handholdy. It stops you repetitively. It'll bring up these menus like here, stop you, make you do certain actions, and then continue. It's a feature of this game that I don't prefer. Especially since after like the first episode or the second episode, it just kind of like releases you and then you get a little lost. But we'll get through it. So let's jump in. Before jumping into your first expedition, let's learn the basics of driving. W, search the engine, spacebar is for the parking brake, and W, A, and D is different directions. There is S too because it's an auto as well. S makes it go in reverse, obviously. The driving mechanics are much similar to SnowRunner if you've ever played that. They are different though. So this is kind of what I said. It was very hand-holdy and it will just stop you dead, make you do certain actions. That was not as bad, but others it makes you like shift into park, shift into different gears for no reason. Even like there's a part it says, oh, if you're stuck, do this. I'm not stuck, like but okay, I mean, I get it, they have to teach everybody. Coming up to another checkpoint here. To move further, you'll need to engage all-wheel drive, making traverse of the rough terrain easier, but at the cost of higher fuel consumption. And then you have to hold shift, you have to hit E, and then it'll release you, let you move on. I'm playing on computer with mouse and keyboard. I'm sorry I don't know the controls of Xbox, PlayStation, or the Switch off the top of my head. So when I mention controls, I'm sorry if I don't relate it to what yours would be. Stage complete, differential lock. Oh, you can switch into a lower gear. You hold shift, you go over to low, and you hit, in my case, Q. And some of my issues with this game may come just from it not being optimized for computer. I'm not 100% sure. I know my first probably hour of this game, I was highly frustrated. Highly frustrated. Like, I almost thought about returning the game, not even doing reviews or guides or anything with it. These are little resource areas, these little boxes that will have different equipment. Sometimes they'll have necessary mission equipment at them. Other times it'll be like an airdrop where you have additional things that you're allowed to use. In this case, it wants us to get the mission equipment. On the left is your inventory, on the right is the resource zone or the airdrop. And they want you to move that over. So now that you have that in your inventory, you could, if it was here, get fuel, get spare parts, wheels. None of that's here, nor do we really need any of that right now. So we'll hit escape. That wants us to go back to auto and reverse. And I'll just drive on out. Stage complete. Let's try the tire adjustment, where you can change the air pressure in your tire. You hit T, Brings up this little gauge where you can have it at full, you can have it at about half or low, and it does change your rock and mud ratings for that. We'll just keep it in the middle. If you have it on low and you drive at any decent speed, you have a chance of damaging your tires. The middle, you won't damage your tires, but it will use up more fuel. I haven't really noticed it to be too effective in mud necessarily, but going over the rocks and doing some like minor rock climbing, it has helped. I would say it's a noticeable difference over SnowRunner. I'll try to point some of that out as we go along. You need to, at times you'll need to like refuel your truck. So enter, go to control, hit spacebar if you have fuel with you. You can fill it up all the way. And if your truck is damaged, you can use parts doing the same thing. Control. And then you can use the arrow keys, or you can just use the mouse and click on different parts. And then use the spacebar to add the parts to that piece to make it not as damaged. And we come into this first zone, which will complete our first mission. Not too bad. Well, you got 30,000, got 3,000 for that. Our first trip was 3,000. No items were sold back, which I'll bring up in a different video. But that wasn't too bad. I did say we would do like one mission a video, but I'll do 2 for this one because that one's kind of like very introductory. So here's our first expedition. You must complete this first expedition before you're allowed to do any customization of your truck. That did confuse me when I came in here because I kept trying to change my truck and it would not allow me. It also will bring up this like codex thing a lot as you go through, which will take you to various ports of this codec. It has a lot of reading in it, as you can see, but you can do that on your own time if you get the game. So our first expedition, difficulty is, we'll start up here. This is your first assignment. You have to go to the mountains to install a radio module that will improve the signal of the quality of the base, but be careful, the road is not easy. Difficulty is easy. The distance, approximate distance you'll have to travel is 1,000 meters. The truck that it recommends is an off-road truck. And the terrain is difference in heights. I mean it's kind of self-explanatory, and there are watery terrains as well. This requirements is you have to buy these from the store in order to proceed. Maybe once you unlock free roam and you can have them in your truck already, that's one thing, but until then you must buy them from the store. They do give you prepayments down here, which you'll see that pretty much just covers the cost of that jack screw. So you can also show more rewards. Down here it will sometimes offer like an additional 1,000 for unlocking a certain viewpoint, or if you unlock 5 things that were not recently discovered on the map, they'll have other bonuses in here. Okay, so we will select it. Over here is where you can get your team members. You only start out with a manager if you want to pay for that, but he just gets you 50% when selling equipment back to them. You can go into trucks, your vehicle selection. Like I said, right now it is locked that we cannot customize anything. So we will choose the TUS the TUS 16 Acetia. I can't say that very well. Because it has a sideboard bed, and that is what we need for the mission. So we will hit enter. We'll come down here and click add. We'll go into inventory, and this is where you have to buy things in order to get them in for the mission. Like it says, the screw jack. But at the end of this mission, it's going to want to sell the screw jack back. And then the next mission, it's going to want a screw jack. So like I said, once you unlock free roam, maybe it's a little bit easier. You can keep those equipment on you and you don't have to buy and sell them each time. But that is what it is. It will show you kind of a workaround around that as well, because you don't necessarily have to sell them back. But we'll get to that when we get there. So buy that for now. You can see our prepayment was $1,500 and the screw jack was $1,500. So no win, no loss. That's all it needs, a sideboard bed and the one screw jack. And down here will be deploy. If you don't have this, such as if we go in here and take that screw jack out and we try to go into it, now we cannot deploy. We have to have those requirements in our vehicle to be able to go on. I mentioned the distance of 1,000 meters. If you notice over here on your truck, it tells you about how long it will last with your normal fuel consumption. It also tells you down here too. Also notice at the bottom, if you recover, each vehicle will have a different recovery cost. Alright. So we got our screw jack. And that should do it. And now we can deploy. I will talk about our different deployment options in a later part of the video or the next video. So now it just wants us to go to the first area. So we'll meander over there. Alright. It wants us to go to the mini-map. For mouse and keyboard, you can right-click and add points. If you right-click on a previous point, it will delete them or reverse them. And you can click like in the middle and create new points. And you can also hold the middle mouse button, it'll delete all the points in that line. So if you had like 30 and you're like, oh my god, I don't want to go that way, just hit that, it'll clear it all. You don't need it, but we'll set the first point. Very much similar to SnowRunner in that aspect. And we'll come up here, come around the bends and the rocks. I do like the graphics. I do like the feel of it. It feels similar to SnowRunner, but it feels fresh too. And then we'll come up. This is the first time you get to use your echo sounder or depth module thing. You come into tab, and these are your devices that you will always have on your truck. You don't have to add them, they'll just be there. Sometimes you'll add additional equipment that you can use, like a metal detector, and it will be in this menu as well. Some of these, you have to have the engine on to perform them, like the echo sounder and the metal detector. But things like the drone and the binoculars, you do not. As you can see, it adds different depths in front of us so we can see where we're going. We can do it again just to make sure. And we'll turn all-wheel drive on. One thing that I don't care for as much in Expeditions so far is how much menu things you have to go through. I liked more of the freeform option of SnowRunner. Like, just to move that over, you have to come into like a menu. Might just be personal preference. It's so-so. if we can drive the right way. Also, you can see there's no like cargo, it just adds like a tarped object to your truck. And that tarped object can't fall out. You can tip it over and it won't dump out. You can explore the nearby mountains using the drone. Enter. You can shut the truck off if you'd like. Hit tab. Go to your drone. And it wants us to go to the top of the mountain. Not too bad. I do recommend that when you're in this little starting tutorial that you come completely into the zones that it tells you. Otherwise, you could have some issues. And you can obviously see around. Some of the things are not available because we haven't gone far enough in the tutorial. Like I was saying, I do like the tire inflation, which I'll show you up here on the rocks. I really do think it helps out. I was unsure if it was going to be like a gimmick or if it was going to be something useful. And I actually think it is quite useful. It seems to work very much in a similar way as you would expect, like how it works in your life in a way. You can use your winch. The difference between your winch and here versus SnowRunner is you can actually release it or push back. So you can hit F to fast winch, like you can hit R to release, you can hit fast winch to there. Doesn't matter too much. Your trees, it tells you that, you know, they can possibly break. I'm not pulling on it yet, but you can see how much the tires are kind of struggling. If we go into the tire pressure and reduce them, they will grip a bit more. So when you start doing things like pulling on the winch, the tires will brighten just a bit more than they usually do. And you won't have to use the winch nearly as much. This next menu is just them telling you, you know, there is a different way to use the winch. You can come up and manually select what point of the truck you want to go to and where to. Also, talking about the tires, you'll notice over, I think you can get it right here where it says T. If you drive, it will flash red if your tires are too low. If you keep driving, it will cause damage, so keep them on usually medium or hard. I'll leave them on medium so you can kind of see the tire deformation as we go up the hill. You can see since we have it on medium, it's just no trouble. Sorry for kind of whipping it back and forth. And that stage is complete, so we can deliver the supplies. Sometimes in expeditions you'll have to complete the quest or complete structures or construction. Deliver the radio, and this is where I said try to drive hard into the zones, because I tried to do this earlier when I was trying to make just the tutorial, and I barely touched the zone and it wouldn't let me continue. I actually had to close the game just to get it to deliver. I'm sure that's something that they'll fix. Now they want you to scan that ridge over there. It says Great Way. They want you to open the mini map. Kind of shows you where it wants you to scan. So you can hit tab. Again, you don't need your engine on for this. You can bring out your binoculars and you can zoom in and see that there's an airdrop over there. The farther you are away, it does have a depth of field that it will. You can see at this point there is no objects over on that ridge. When you zoom in, they pop into place. That happens with several different things around here. We can start the truck again. You can see that ridge wasn't the only thing that we could see with our binoculars. We could look around. Just like there's our field of operations base. And there's that other board that we just went through. Alright. Now it wants us to use our drone. And it wants us to scan this whole area that does have some black patches in it. As you fly the drone around, it will open this up like traditional. So go to tab, get the drone, and go over towards that little marker. It doesn't really show you while you're flying like how much of the zone, other than the top right hand corner. It says like 82% explored. That bad signal is just how far you can be from the vehicle, which for us right now is 80 meters. There are some technicians that help with that, but it just stops you from flying. That is all. And you can see as we kind of circle this area, that 97% goes up. And it just wants you to try to get all this black area filled in. But it doesn't. That's the only thing I wish it showed you, is like a little, maybe like a little mini map or something that showed you like what area you still need to fly through when it had these. Because now we have to go back to the map and look at it and see that that zone right there is stopping us. So we're probably too far away, even though it told us to stop there. So we'll just back up a little and we'll try again. We'll take the drone back out. See, we're at 99. And we'll just fly directly towards that blackened area of the map. And as you can see, there's different points that you'll be able to spot with it. There we go. Completed. Go to our, I believe, the last point here. And that is stage complete. So at any time during your expedition, you can recover back to the field base. When you open your mini-map, it doesn't really tell you how to come back down there. It does not tell you at all. There is an option to skip time. Like you can tell, it's getting a little dark out. You can hit T in my case to skip time, but it wants us to recover. And the directions aren't very clear. What it wants you to do is come over here into the corner, come down to your outposts, and then click on one of your outposts to recover. This time, the recovery is free, whereas normally I believe it was 3,000 for this truck. Now it just wants us to drive into the next zone. Before I drive in there, I will show you that you can, this zone next to the shop, you can trade equipment and put your screw jack in there and it will hold it. But we'll pretend like I didn't show you that, and we'll do as the mission wants. If you complete the mission, it will tell you that. It will say you get that much for the mission. Take less than 200 damage, you get 500, and you get 3 rewards. Now your first expedition is $2,500. And then the item sold is that screw jack. But then you'll lose that screw jack and you only get $750 for it. Whereas, even though we got the pre-bonus of the $1,500, it could cost you that much and you might not want to give up your equipment. If you just hit, in this case, we'll have to go back to headquarters and sell this. But usually there'll be an option that you can just like continue, and then you can just back up into that zone or drive all the way back here and put that in. And you'll be able to keep those items. But that is it for this first episode of Expeditions. I've been your host, Delphino's. I hope you appreciated this. I want to have, like I said, about 5 more episodes because I do want to show you some tips about how to use the different anchors and things like that. So I do hope you'll come back for more. But until next time, I hope you're having the best you can do. If you're thinking about buying this game, I do enjoy it now that I've kind of gotten over my frustrations with it. and I think it'll be different. I think part of it is you have to get used to being different and not being like SnowRunner. But like always, I will see you on the other side.